Hello, traders. Welcome back to another market and trading recap. Today is Monday, February 24. Maybe we can talk a little about the follow through that the spiders did, the SPY. You can see what happened on the daily chart. They did not do so well. They closed on the lows after attempting a little bit of a retrace in the morning. We said in Friday's video that a retracement would not be out of the question. I expected them to do more retracement today. I want to point something out on a 15-minute chart here. Typically, with a day like we had on Friday, it would not be surprising for the bulls to attempt some type of retrace, maybe not halfway up the drop from Friday, but something at least. They pretty much fell right after the open. And once they got down to around 596.50 or so, I'm going to put a line here. They really kind of got out of this area, and this was the rally I was looking for. I was in a trade. I was in a long trade and held out and got some money out of it. But we're going to take a look at the levels and the specifics of the trades if you chose to take them today. But I was looking to see what was it about this area here around 596.50-ish that the bulls came out and drove price up. Zoom out a little bit. So there's not a whole lot here. A lot of back and forth at this area. Something that really wasn't on my radar this morning. I did mention in the game plan, which we'll look at shortly. I did not want to include too many levels. Just too risky, I thought, if there was going to be extra energy in the market and they could move price around. But I was looking at how they made this pivot low here. We can do this on any chart. This happens to be an hourly chart. But if I were to connect this pivot low with what they did here on that third 15-minute candle, this is the low they made right around 596.50 or so. And one thing I noticed is if I extend this level out to the left, just to see if there's anything important looking in the past. Let's start out with like maybe a 4-hour chart. Start to see a few things come into play. But it's really not until you get way out that you start to realize that this could be maybe kind of a reversion to the mean for quite a while. Because if we go all the way out on a weekly chart, let's just go ahead and reset this. Here we go. This line, just from these 2 points here, this trend line, is pretty important on this weekly chart all the way back starting here at October, the middle of October of 2022. So this is after this kind of bearish year we had. They found a bottom and they've been going up. From this point in time, it seems that price has spent almost as much time above this trend line as it has below the trend line. So where they are now looks like it could be pretty important. Are they going to bounce here? We're really close to the 20-period moving average. Mentioned that on Friday. Is that going to provide some support? They're going to get below that. I just find that kind of interesting that this trend line could have been one of the reasons that you had a very precise bounce right here at around 10 o'clock or so. Just an observation, not making any calls about where they're going. Maybe we should just go back to the daily chart here, reset this thing. I'm going to go ahead and keep this trend line on the chart because I have a feeling it's going to come in handy later. So right below this trend line, we have the purple line is the 100-period moving average. But instead of price coming down on Friday and then retracing this move today, they got below the low of Friday's down candle. Still doesn't look too good for the bulls, but as we just saw on the weekly chart, they're above all the big moving averages. The 20-period maybe won't be so important when it gets to it since they're kind of in the neighborhood now, but it's bullish because they're above the 50-period at least. This is extended trading data here, and they've been bouncing off this trend line since the market closed. Let's kind of get in closer. Pretty interesting. Here's a 5-minute chart. So they're spending some time with this trend line. Just something I noticed just a few minutes ago. I just want to share with you guys. You can read through the levels and the game plan that was sent out this morning, 9:02 a.m. before the opening bell, and just a few notes about what might happen. One thing I wished I had mentioned in here is probably a good idea to either scale down on position size, like if you trade maybe 2 contracts typically, then trade 1 or maybe a handful of micros, and also that if and when price gets to the levels, you could expect price to spike the levels instead of react precisely. We had a little bit of both of those scenarios in today's price action, and we'll jump to the 1-minute chart and take a look. So here are the 2 levels that price respected today, or at least reacted at one way or another. So while right after the open, they did come down and bounce right off the 601.84. I don't like to trade before the 15-minute window. You're welcome to do if you want it. In this case, it would have worked pretty well for a long trade. Grab a handful of points you're not holding on to for too long. And they got below it. So at 9:45, they're on their way down. So if you were to trade this per the rules, you would have traded 599.04. We're going to add 5 cents to the level from the morning, the original level. So I'm going to go ahead and put reference levels of what we're looking for. We're looking for a bounce of 4 ES points, and we have a fumble threshold. That's what I call a fumble threshold, which is 4 points or 40 cents below. So we're down here. What we don't want to happen if we don't get a bounce and a base hit is for price to get under this fumble threshold. So I'll talk about that in a minute. But first, let's talk about what price did. They got down to $5.99.15. So it's 11 cents away from our level, not 10 cents. Then within a minute later, they're at $5.99.13. Now we're within 10 cents. And in both of these cases, they shot back up to your 4-point base hit. The way I like to look at this is the market's way of telling you that there was a bounce there, just enough for our typical 4-point base hit. So if they were to come back down to this level a third time in this case, might not be a good idea to take it because that is a near miss. It's pretty classic near miss. You got the clue 1 minute before they got down there. So you really should not have triggered a trade or bought mini contracts to go long at $5.99.04. However, if you did, there was no rule violated under this thing. They got down to about 25 points out of the money, but in terms of timing, they got back up in the money. Where'd they go? They went to 1 penny, I believe, $5.99.45. 1 penny above the target to pull profit, and that would have given you 4 points if you chose to do it. I actually got more. I was over here, and I trailed this up. I'll show it to you. But I had to withstand this. But once again, there was nothing violated per the strategy that I use to trade this. It's a matter of giving it time. So anyway, no trade there. No trade at $5.99.04. And remember, the original level was $5.98.99, right? There wasn't enough time for this little move to go short. They kind of reacted there. They reacted again. There were other clues by this point in the morning, around 11:20 or so, that going short here for a recycle trade probably wasn't the best idea because this was the bulls trying to rally. Moves can be bigger and bigger swings. They might spike the level, but we're going to go ahead and say you're going to go short here for a recycle trade at $5.98.94. That's 5 cents toward price as price is coming up into this level. So once again, here's our reference levels. We are looking for price to hit the level, pull back down, and give us 4 points in the E-minis. Obviously, you can see that did not happen. And then our fumble threshold, a little reference level up here, would be at $5.99.34. So anything above this is 4 points or more out of the money. And it happened to be that there were around 5.5 points out of the money when you would have reversed this trade. So you would have given some money back, but then they continued higher and pulled at least 4 points, probably more because they're moving pretty fast. If you chose to take a recycled trade on the short side at $5.98.94. So that would satisfy this level, original level $5.98.99 from the morning, and you wouldn't have touched it for the rest of the day. So even though they did react here a couple times later in the day, you're not messing with it. Well, now 601.84, we didn't do anything over here because it was before 15 minutes, but when they got up to it here later in the day, you're welcome to take the trade. Even without adjusting this level, they went up to 601.85. 1 penny above, that would be on a perfect trade. So if you trigger the trade at the original level or at 601.79, it's clear to see that was a great place to go short. Here's a recording of one trade that I took. So here's the time. Market opens, opening bell, 9:30. So as you know, they got below this level here, and I have an order in the system to buy 4 E-mini contracts if the SPY hit $5.99.04. There's the adjustment right there. I'm going to pause this when it gets down here because this is sped up so fast that you don't really see me here. You wouldn't know, but I'm just telling you now that I'm hesitating. I'm thinking for about 30, 40 seconds or so as I watch this. Do I want to go ahead and cancel this trade and just play it safe? But I decided not to. I stayed in. I kind of paid the price because, as you know, they got under it, so I was out of the money quite a bit. I really probably should have just traded 1 or 2 contracts and been a little bit safer, but I'm paying attention to what's going on down here, and this is where our reversal, little rally for the bulls happened, and there was a couple signs, especially on the 15-minute chart. I got 2 signs, actually, that they're probably going to go higher, and they did. So I held out. So while I could have gotten my 4 points right here, we already saw that, I just held out, knowing that if they got back down here and started closing at least 1 or 2 15-minute candles under this area, then I'd be in trouble. Or at least not in trouble. I'd just have to jump out at a pretty substantial loss. But that didn't happen. As you know, in the interest of time, I'll scrub ahead here. So I held on to this thing along the entire time. The only thing that I did that was slightly different would be I just took 3 contracts off. I trailed the remaining contract. They quickly turned around and stopped me out at a few points. So it was like around 7 point something, like 7 and a fraction points with those 4 contracts. And I went to lunch. So this is just sitting here recording. Didn't touch anything until got back, where I didn't make any more trades, but just to show you that this recording ran until about 12:45 p.m. And that's when I got back to my computer and shut down and close up shop for the rest of the day. Here are the tracking logs, the PBR, playing by the rules. You can read the notes. This is what you would have done. You would have given a few points back on that fumble and regained a base hit, and then he got a base hit on the level at the top. And if you're trading 2 contracts, it would put you right here. So here's where we're at. As we were tracking this, assuming you're trading 2 contracts at every single level, strictly adhering to a set of rules. And then my trades over here, the Sam's Trades output, just the one trade, 7.06 points on 4 contracts. It was 14.12.50. So there you go. And there's where it puts me. And once again, if you were only trading 2 contracts, you'd be at 24%. Certainly not as many trades. As you can see, you see all the green and, well, other colors compared to what I've done. It will be interesting to see where we end the week on this playing by the rules log. I'd like to see where the total rate of return is going to be. Don't know yet. Just take one day at a time and treat each level the same. But we'll find out soon enough. So that's a wrap for today. Thanks for watching. I hope you found some value and learned something perhaps. I'll talk to you in the next recap video. We'll have levels tomorrow morning. They will be provided to everyone on my list. So thank you for trusting my levels and my approach here. And if you are using these levels to trade against in the E-minis, or at least experiment with, I hope they are working for you as well as they are working for me. Thanks again. Have a great day.